social interaction ranks as the #1 thing you can do to have a longer life. I swear this stuff is making me live shorter, but supposedly it's good for me.
Well, I don't know. Does Zoom count as social interaction, or does that move the needle in the opposite direction?
I don't know, but I think it does. It counts.
Do meetings count as social interaction?
Yes, they do. Yeah.
That's all right. Let's go ahead and get started. It's about 7:02, so we'll go ahead and get started. For attendees, we have myself, we have Joe, we have Kevin, Kurt, and Alfred. And we have Janet, and we have Will. Charles Frazier is on. Oh, did I miss you, Kevin? I'm sorry. Yes.
There might be some against the wall, against the barn, where the net was for the lobster traps. Some cans there.
So let's move on to announcements, open session, or public comments. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to minutes of meeting from the March 29th. So hopefully people have had a chance already to take a look at them and provide either comments or a motion to approve.
Chris, I'm on board. This is Skip.
There he is.
Oh, okay. Well, Skip, how timely. We were looking for a motion to approve the minutes.
But I can't get it on visual, so.
That's okay. We'll just formulate our own images.
I would make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Okay.
I'll second that meeting. This is Skip.
I'm sorry, who seconded? Skip or Kevin? I saw both.
Both did.
Skip did.
Yeah, Skip.
We're mixing it up. We're changing it up tonight, Skip.
Okay.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote individually, either aye or nay, starting with Alfred.
Aye.
Kurt.
Abstain, I wasn't there.
Gotcha. Kevin.
Aye.
Skip.
Aye.
Joe.
Aye.
Chris. Aye. So the motion passes 5-0 to 1. Okay, let's move on to an update on the status of contract for the permit assistance, namely the lobbyist, and also an update on permit activity itself. Joe, if you could give us an update on that, please.
Yeah. When the RFP went out, we received 2 bids for lobbying services. One from our previous lobbyist and a new one. The previous lobbyist bid was for $25,000 for the year. The additional one was for $10,000 a month. The select board had given preliminary approval to the lobbyist in the previous years in January, and it's on the agenda for tomorrow night to be formally approved. The money has been allocated from the stabilization fund, the finance committee, I've been told that because of the heavy agenda tomorrow evening, it may get bumped over to the following select board meeting. We'll have to see. It's toward the end. But that's the update on that. On permitting of Area 2, which has been our ongoing challenge. For quite a few years, we have received support from our congressional delegation on this whole process. And I made them aware of the struggle we're engaged in with the National Marine Fisheries Service and Army Corps of Engineers regarding the lack of issuing the permit for Area 2, the mooring field, which would commence dredging in October of 2022. And Congressman Keating's chief of staff and I had a long conversation, and the first comment he made was how much the congressional delegation objected to National Marine Fisheries and the Army Corps denying us a seat at the table to negotiate directly with them. So that was the first issue that they are going to be working on. He also shared with me that he had a conversation with the New England Director of National Marine Fisheries Service. And that person told him that their objection to signing off recommending the permit be granted was based on, they believe that the mooring field has not been an active mooring field, but has been an active shellfishing area. We were rather incredulous to hear that, and he presented a strong argument that that is just not the case. And so the end result was he got that person to agree to have a conference meeting with the National Marine Service, Fisheries Service people, and our people and our engineer to address that issue head on so that it can be resolved. Interestingly, the National Marine Fisheries people told him that they based their information on our engineer's April 2018 data and evaluation. And it's pretty clear in that data that their information, their position is that it has always been a mooring field, and that there is no harm to come to it should we continue to operate it as a mooring field. So they're in the process of setting up that meeting. And as soon as I hear back, then I will send it out to everybody. He strongly recommended, along with staff people from Markey and Warren's offices, that we do not engage in any discussion of mitigation at all. That their position is to maintain the position that it has been an active mooring field. There's no reason why it should not continue to be so. Therefore, no reason to engage in mitigation.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Where did they get the fact that it was a shellfish grant, a shellfish area? Was it through documents that the town of Wellfleet filed 4 or 5 years ago, started with a culture program? Because if that's, I'm giving you a heads up, because at one point our illustrious shellfish constable filed to put culture in that whole area and didn't realize it was the mooring basin, and he said he'd been doing it even though he didn't know where he was. Because we the town of Wellfleet filed with the state, and I'm not so sure where, Nancy may be more up on this now, but the original set of plans showed that we were going to culch that area, which we never did or had intended to. It's just that we had the wrong location. And we had to amend our shellfish plans to show that it was the mooring basin. I hope they don't have a chart. And if they do, we can say we've amended it because we made a mistake in the actual location of where the culched area was.
And if that was so, will the culch area cover 24 acres?
Oh, Andy had it all the way to the L pier.
Okay.
It was the most asinine thing I'd ever seen.
Well, we are. Let me just.
Well, I'm going to finish. Then I'll. Then
oh,
what
sure.
I'm saying is, Hillary had done the plan with the town. They used the things instead of using Slade's plan that shows where the mooring fields is. And then at that point, they asked me to take it to the next set of engineers and get it fixed. At that point, they understood the thing, and Coastal Engineering filed for the amended plan. So what I'm telling you is, if somebody says in a discussion, Joe, that we had said that was shellfish area, that is true only by a mistake. So there could be a document that the town of Wellfleet created showing it as a shellfish area, but it was a mistake in the Latin law for where they put it. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Alfred,
Pier Road. We
Kurt?
spread culch up on Pier Road, Johnny and I.
Well, if you ever looked at that plan, they were also culching the back of the, where the slips are, all in the dredged area there too. Nobody had the right GPS coordinates, and we didn't go. We didn't go over to Slade's and get them.
Oh, do you think Slade has it?
Slade at that point gave me the actual GPS coordinates, which I have anyways, because that's how we set the moorings. And at that point, they went to Coastal Engineering, so Coastal Engineering could amend the plan that had already gone off to the state. The state had the plan for over a year before we amended it.
So who do you think would have the original incorrect plan and the amended one? Coastal?
They may. What's the name should have it too?
Slade?
No, Slade you're not going to get it from. I think it's either you're going to get it from Coastal or you're going to get it out of the Shellfish Department.
What about the company that took over Slade's surveying business?
Good luck. It's only an opinion. I mean, I can call the one and only. What I'm trying to tell you is the town of Wellfleet applied for something with the wrong numbers on it, and it looked like our mooring basin could have been used for shellfish, is what I'm trying to tell you. I'm not so sure who saw that, but if anybody saw that, they would definitely think that's what we were doing there.
But the DMF, and I think first of all, no culture ever went in there, and DMF would have to approve that plan. And so I'm wondering if DMF ever, if there's any documentation from DMF would indicate otherwise.
Well, that's why I'm Kurt, the only reason I'm bringing it up is it was sent to DMF.
Right.
The town of Wellfleet took the plan with the numbers on it and sent it off to DMF. It was a DMF for over a year, and that's when they showed me the plan, and I went mental and said, look, this is the mooring field. This is they actually were in the federal channel with some of this stuff. And that's when Hillary asked me to see if I could because she didn't know that Slade had all the numbers, because Slade has done all the stuff for the mooring field.
Right.
So at that point, I had a copy of it anyways for where the moorings went, and I took the copy from Slade, a blank one, instead of showing the moorings on it. It showed the perimeters, and that's what went back to the state through Coastal Engineering. And I don't know if I don't know if we have a permit yet for doing culch.
Do you think Nancy would have these records?
She should, but
You should.
But it's during let me put it differently. You know how Wellfleet function is during one leaving and one coming in.
Yeah, I know.
But what I'm getting at is the official shellfish map is overseen by DMF. So you know, what DMF has is the official, I mean, what the town of Wellfleet could come up with anything it wanted to, but it's got to get approved by DMF, and DMF would have to certify it. And so, you know, no proposal from the town can constitute a change in use until it's approved.
But I don't know how far it got. What I'm trying to tell you is, I don't know where it got with DMF, Kurt, because we asked DMF for the approval to take that area and use it for culching. That's what the permit was for. We did not have a permit to culch there anywhere. So when we asked for the new permit, or the brand new first bite at the apple, that's what we asked for, culching everywhere there.
Do you remember what year that was?
Well, it was the last year Andy was here, and it had been a year or so after he'd gone that before the stuff came back from the state. Hillary, I'll ask Hillary too.
Well, Joe said that the data's from April 28th, 2018. And right around that time, Nancy was hired. I think it was 218, but we'd have to ask.
The reason I brought this up is if somebody's got that plan and they're making a decision on this, they're making a decision on a wrong plan. However, it's got the town of Wellfleet stamped right across it. That's why I'm making the comment.
Yeah, that's a very good heads up, so that we don't get blindsided on it. Alfred, if you share, either with Hillary and or Nancy, the plan that they referenced, April of 2018, that they referenced to Joe, it does coincide with a report that GEI did. The title page is April of 18. It went to the Corps on June 13th of 18. And then I think that went to Marine Fisheries in October of that year, and Fisheries responded to the Corps in December of that year. There's nothing in that report that I saw that anyone could construe or could barely misconstrue that that's a shellfish area. The only thing I think is they in their response said that you have to calculate based on lowest possible tide. And if you did that, then essentially the whole area becomes intertidal flats. Didn't say anything about shellfish, but I just wonder if they're conflating that. But I think it'd be good for us to, certainly good already that we know there was this incorrect submittal to someone. If we can get our hands on it, so much the better. But I think they're referring to the GEI report from April of 18, but we need to find that out. Either way, you know, there's nothing factual that should drive the observation that it's not a mooring field, that they think it's a shellfish area.
I have to say that I'm not at all surprised that we've arrived at this point. As you know, the process that the Army Corps of Engineers mandated from day one did not allow us to speak directly to the Army Corps, to National Marine Fisheries, or any other agency that had us sign off. The rules were we could only speak to our engineer, who would transfer our information to the Army Corps, who would give that information to their in-house mitigation specialist, who then would be the person to deal with National Marine Fisheries. We have felt from the beginning that that process was flawed. There was a long conference call with Army Corps in November. Chris and Will, Maria Broadbent were on that. And they reiterated that process again. So unlike several years back, when the endangered species turtle people on the state level objected and wouldn't sign off on the permit, we had a seat at the table right across from them. And Harry and I negotiated with them, and it worked out. Having been denied that seat at the table, I think has caused this problem. So, you know, what I'm looking forward to is the congressman setting up that meeting with Marine Fisheries. This is such a black and white issue. We've got to find out where they're coming from are they mistaken? What are they looking at for documentation? And if they need anything additional from us. And without that missing piece, we really can't go forward. The whole process does not lend itself to direct talks. The grant we submitted on March 17th was 171 pages, loaded with data, over 100 pages from GEI, and loaded with drawings. So it's very confusing as to why they would get that impression with all the information that they have access to.
Joe, let me add one other thing, because I did just look up the shellfish area habitat maps, the official maps from DMF. And the entirety of Wellfleet Harbor is classified as a shellfish area. And there's only one, prohibited area, one restricted area, and the rest is approved. That's the whole harbor. That includes the channel. It includes, the mooring basin. It includes the north mooring field. So the whole entire area is classified as shellfish area. And one has to overlay, therefore, the channel, the mooring field, the federal mooring basin, and the other elements to have an accurate assessment of what's actually being used for shellfish, harvestable shellfish area versus what's being used for other purposes. So, CCB 13 is all of the marina area. CCB 12 is the Herring River area. CCB 11 is Wellfleet Harbor. But if you look at the map includes the entire area. There's no delineation for anything else. So I don't think we have an Achilles heel there, because, that's just a classification. That doesn't mean anything.
But it may be why they're misinterpreting.
Yeah, it may be why they're misinterpreting. But then they'd also have to misinterpret the federal channel too.
True.
That's the only thing I'm trying to say. I mean, the federal channel is, obviously in CCB 11. And, the rest of it is in CCB 13. But that doesn't really mean anything. So, Joe, to your point, I mean, obviously, because we don't have a seat at the table, that could be an area where there is some miscommunication or misconstruing of these maps.
It's baffling with all the additional information that they would have, including from the engineers. It bothers me that our engineers have never been able to talk directly to those who are objecting, like National Marine Fisheries. And Congressman Keating's chief of staff jumped all over that. They feel it's a federal public agency, therefore we should have access. And I think really, I'm glad it's up on that level, because he was able to talk directly with the New England director of marine fisheries, and she agreed to set that up. So I put a phone call into him this afternoon for a status check. And I'm going to keep on it until we get a date so we can set that up and clear up the big mystery.
So Joe, can you get that information from Nancy really for the last 5 or 6 years, any kind of reports or maps that have been filed, so you can show that, maybe 10 years ago it was considered a mooring field, and then when a new shellfish constable came on and used culch, she designated it, or maybe the previous shellfish constable designated it as culch. I don't know. Is there any proof that we need, maps that we can put together for this?
Well, to that point, I think it's a good idea to have those documents ready to go when we do meet with them, so we're prepared.
Yeah, I think that might confuse things, though. I think it's going to be easier to look at, take the Division of Marine Fisheries, which are the official shellfish classification maps for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And just, if you take just those maps, and I'm looking at the one that was produced January 17th of 2019, and it shows the whole the entirety of Wellfleet Harbor as, you know, the shellfish area classifications. And it does not overlay the federal channel. It doesn't overlay any of the other uses in the harbor. And so you've got to overlay the other uses before you can get a, you know, you can get a real map. I don't know if like DER has that. So they have a combined map where you overlay the GIS, you know, delineations for other uses. But it's really just it's a use question. And I think it would be confusing to introduce, you know, culching or, you know, anything else, because basically this is a zoning question. And what's the zone? That's the federal channel. What's the zone? That's the mooring field. What's the zone? That's the, you know, the pier area and, you know, the North Channel. I mean, those are, you know, those are the zones. It's a zoning question.
Yeah, but Kurt, the last map that went out actually showed the mooring field with a culture around it instead of being in it. So
yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
It shows the boundary of where we decided there was no shellfish, which is the mooring area.
Yeah, but I think it's still a zoning question. I mean, you can put culch anywhere. That doesn't take the zoning away from the mooring field.
You can't put culch in the mooring field,
right?
Because then you can't have the shellfish in it.
Right. So, but you know, where you put culch doesn't change the zoning question of what's mooring field versus what's something else.
I'd like to add another item in that I think makes everybody's point. In that November conference call with the Army Corps of Engineers, the head of the regulatory division chaired it. And after we did our presentation, we were going back and forth, trading information. And when they were pretty adamant about not dredging the mooring field, she said to us, well, can't you find some land to the right of the mooring field where you could make a new mooring field? I mean, she apparently didn't even look at the maps and look at the data. And again, I come back to the process and what is lost when you're unable to deal directly with people. So once again, I look to our congressional delegation to open those doors, and it sounds like we've made a start at that.
You know, one thing we overlook it could be as simple as $15 million. They were holding out for $15 million.
Yeah, it's 13.
I think that would solve
13, I'm sorry, Joe, I forgot the two.
13 and a half. Kevin, 13 and a half. And she said, and I quote her, and maybe we can do a little better than that.
Yeah, it could be just that simple. Sorry, Joe, I was off by $1.5 million.
Well, we saw that with the turtle people. You know, that was loud and clear. And you know, what we learned in that process where, you know, other agencies are doing that to pad their budget.
Right. In the political side of it is you didn't know who was going to be elected president. So they were playing a political game. So that's how simple it could be.
And I think their eyes opened wide when they looked at Area 2 being 24 acres, $14.26 a square foot. And that's how they arrive at the total figure.
Yep. Just one man's opinion.
Oh, I think there are more that share that opinion.
Okay, anything else on permit activities?
Yeah, I had a question on, if I may.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Alfred.
Do we know where we are for the amended permit for the fuel dock and the town float and the launching ramp?
We have, at each meeting with the engineers, we have brought that up and asked for a starting date. The last time we discussed it, his comment was he didn't anticipate any problems because he didn't see it going before the regulatory agencies as being problematic, that they would pretty quickly sign off on it. I'm not pleased with that. I would like it to start right now. And I think it's one of several things that we have to lean harder on the engineers for. And Chris and I are going to get into more on the next item.
Because the first time it was brought to his attention was at the pre-dredge meeting when they did the piggyback.
Yes.
He told us that he took a long time some other place, and he didn't anticipate that there either. And it was a whole different animal than Wellfleet, which it may be. But the problem I have is we should have these permits in hand now so that we can get ready to go out to bid. We shouldn't be waiting for permits to when it's convenient for him to do them so that we can bid this at the very end and not know where this is going. I'm very opposed to the fact that the town of Wellfleet, who I think has worked at this, I know everybody in the committees have, and he does not seem to think there's going to be a problem. He also thought, in my opinion, that when we were going to do the piggyback, that all that stuff was going to fly. And look where that ended up. None of that went totally smooth. Everybody made a little bit of a mistake, and because of that, we didn't get the job finished. Now, if we don't finish the job with the amended stuff this year, and the dredge doesn't come back, we're not going to have that fixed. I don't think he realizes, or maybe he does, the negative aspect of this if it doesn't get done. I don't know how the town of Wellfleet can portray it to him where they pay the money for this and be stronger about it. There's no reason why that couldn't have been filed 4 months ago. Is there?
Not in my opinion.
I mean, is
Chris?
that something that...
You know, what we saw back in the fall, the Army Corps dragging their feet and not signing off on the permit, took way too long to do that. We were not allowed to talk with them. I called them one time when our engineer was not available and I needed information, and I was admonished for calling them. You know, they're a public agency, okay? And the bottom line, Alfred, is we were dependent upon GEI to lean on them more. And for my money, they didn't do that.
No, but my question to you, Joe, is, or to the committee is, we shouldn't be leaning on anybody. We should have the paperwork in way ahead of time so that it gets done without having to lean on anybody.
Alfred.
And we're in a situation now where I'm becoming disgusted, I think, because we can't fill up. I know.
Alfred, the engineer contracted by the town had everything supplied to him that Wellfleet was required to provide.
I know, Joe.
Now, unless we're going to get rid of him and be our own engineers, then we have a direct line into Army Corps and can raise Cain with them. But the system we've been handed has been that we have to work through the engineer. If you want to talk about changing that system, you know, I'm open to talking about anything like that. I'm not happy with it. And I have further comments, I think Chris does too, as we get into the engineering part of the agenda.
Well,
I know they have other clients, you know. However, things are just, they're not on time enough for me.
I'll let us move on to the next thing so I don't take up too much time. Thank you.
No, I find all your comments valuable. Number 4, Chris?
Okay, surprisingly, engineering updates. So let's start with reestablishing communication. Will, if you could summarize what we've set up for the near-term calls with GEI and for people to be aware of them.
What do you do, Ben? You know that sand out there?
Yeah, so what we're gonna start doing is meeting more regularly with GEI on these issues, especially with these permitting issues coming up and you know, national marine fisheries with some blockades. We're going to start those meetings next week, talking with them and strategizing about how to follow through with a lot of this stuff and continuing on with it. So we're gonna start those meetings, keep a report of those meetings and what happens in them to report back to these meetings. Also taking any questions from these meetings to bring to the engineer meeting and address that. That way we can keep it flowing smoothly and quickly so we can get a lot more meetings in with them to keep on the budgetary track with that. And we should go forward with that pretty well. So that being said, everything will be reported back and forth, but also there will be a lot more communication with the engineer and the rest of this group. So if anyone has anything, please bring it to the table so that it can be addressed at the meeting. And also the engineer has been invited to come to any of these meetings because they are preset as public. So therefore everyone could go and we don't have to change around or worry about who's going to be there and who's going to be there when, or if anyone wants to show up. But that being said, on any meetings with the engineer, if anyone really wants to be there or insists on being there, we can roll that out on a case-by-case basis as well for those, or again, have them come to our meetings certain times as well. But having a more demanding precedent with GEI seems to be a better avenue at this point to make sure we're hitting everything with them going forward.
Anybody wants to jump in? You know, just jump in. Alfred jumped in a couple of times. Anybody else?
I have a question for Will. Will, if they told us that it took approximately 6 months to get that amended part done, or it could, or that was the ballpark, or that was a theory, all right, and we haven't applied for it yet, and it takes 8 months, we're all done. If it takes 3 months, it's okay. So I guess the town of Wellfleet, through the harbor master's office, or the town administrator, wants to make sure that GEI is aware that we needed this project finished that way. I mean, and how do we do that where we pay, where the town pays them to get them to do what the client's asking them to?
Alfred, Chris made up a detailed timetable of deadlines, which was sent out to everybody. We sent that to GEI. I don't think they're in compliance with it, okay? They have the contract with the town. In my view, you know, the TA, if we request it, the TA has to, you know, deal with that. We're a task force. You know, she's the chief operating officer. So maybe we should discuss that.
Well, I guess
that amendment he cited was in Salem. And when I questioned him about that, how long it took, and his response was, well, that's different from Wellfleet because that got heavily into regulatory agency materials and yours won't. I'm not comfortable with that. I think it should have been filed 2 months ago.
I mean, I agree with you, Joe. And, you know, to echo what Alfred was saying, he and I had a conversation, I think about 6 months ago, and this, you know, with regard to the fact that something as simple as the Concom, you know, permit, which was, you know, perfunctory, but, you know, they had missed the deadline to extend that permit and had to refile the permit with the Wellesley Conservation Commission. And there was just no reason for that. It cost us a lot of money. And it is just an unnecessary delay. And then, you know, the same thing with, you know, working to complete, you know, the, you know, this last permit. I mean, I don't know. I'm equally as frustrated with the, you know, with their performance and this, you know, sort of manana mentality of, you know, everything's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. We can file it later. We can file it later. It just, you know, we don't want them to file it later. We want them to file it now because it's too risky. And I don't know how we can gain leverage with them, you know, to get them to perform. You know, Will, you may have some ideas. Maybe Maria has some ideas. But, you know, my view of it is that they're not performing.
Well, he has a contract with the town, okay?
Right, but, right.
There are stipulations in that contract, okay? Why not hold his feet to the fire? Why
yeah,
not
that's what I'm saying.
TA, why not have the TA do that? And I think, you know, if we're all thinking along the same lines, perhaps a policy should be made where we're going to approach the TA and lay that out and ask her to take an action on it.
Does the contract include any language about schedule and or performance? I wouldn't expect it to say time is of the essence, but there certainly can be language about urgency and deadlines.
Yeah, I don't know.
If not, then we probably need to create a section that emphasizes the need for deadlines and adherence to deadlines.
Yeah.
Another way to go about it, though, Chris, is you did lay out. You laid out a time frame, a time schedule. You know that they committed to, that they agreed to, and then failed to meet those deadlines. And you know, I'm not sure exactly what's in the contract with regard to that, but that might be the place to start. To say that they're, you know, that we have some concerns about whether they're in compliance with their contract obligations.
Kurt, the person we're dealing with, the engineer assigned to our project, doesn't allow himself to be pinned down like that. You can the process is, we can hand him a schedule, he'll look at it and agree with it, but there's nothing firm laid down. That's how he deals. At times it's rather frustrating.
I think also being contractual obligations, any schedule that is made, we wouldn't really have any ground unless that was made prior to a contract. But I think if you're having these frustrations and you're talking about this, the first thing to do is to put this down in writing and send it to them and the town administrator. To take what you're saying now as a committee and voice that opinion up higher would be the real key.
Now I don't know if it has been done already, but he may have a new contract coming up because there were new RFPs that went out. The TA made the decision we could carry over with the same engineering firm. But, you know, the time may be right to talk with her about that and putting stipulations in the contract, which is commonly done.
I think we need to do that. Otherwise, and I mean, in addition, we'll concentrate on the schedule and the dates, but I think we do need to give it more visibility like Will is suggesting. Otherwise, we're going to have this same conversation every 2 weeks.
Well, I had Chris and I talked about this back in the winter, and I had a conversation with the TA at that time, and nothing came of it. Okay, So at that time, we were not on the calendar like we are now. We had just finished the piggyback. And I expressed our concerns, the committee's concerns about, keeping the engineer on track.
Is there, is there any chance that we could start to talk with them about, amended language in terms of requiring a performance guarantee, or performance, a penalty if they fail to meet certain deadlines?
Yeah, you know what they're going to say, Kurt? They're going to say they didn't get the work back from the government. And how are we going to fight that?
From the Army Corps. Now,
correct.
But to Kurt's point, that would address getting the submittals in and getting the work done. I agree that wouldn't address the performance of, say, Army Corps or Marine Fisheries, but half the battle is getting the work completed and submitted to the regulatory agencies.
Right.
I think three-quarters of the battle.
Back in the fall, when we were pushing them to push Army Corps to get the permit for Area 1, so we'd be in a position to do the piggyback dredging. When we were pushing, I'm going to paraphrase his comments. He said, well, we have numerous clients with the Army Corps, so we have to maintain a good working relationship with them. That gives you a flavor of where they're coming from. So, do you want to entertain the thought of having us talk with the TA to see if a new contract has been signed yet, to get her thoughts about holding them more accountable?
I think it has to be done.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I mean, because this is my opinion. Whatever gets dredged this year, if we don't get through with a other mooring field, which is going to be a longer period of time, whatever doesn't get finished up this time, nobody's going to finish for a couple of years, if not longer. So when that dredge leaves on January 1st, whatever isn't done isn't going to be done for a couple more years minimal, because nobody's going to come back for a little part. And I don't believe the town of Wellfleet financially is going to be in a situation to pay for a MOB and a demob for a small project. Nor should we be.
Alfred, you know that amendment area well. Why don't you be included on the call with the TA to talk about it?
I'll be happy to, but Joe, the fact that they did the piggyback, they didn't even get to the launching ramp. Okay? So they did 85% of it. Maybe
they did the 36,000 out of 48,000 plus the amended area, what we've been calling amended area, which probably is another 1,500. So
yeah, but that makes
12,000 plus say 2,000.
Yeah, but that makes no difference on the matter if you have a step ladder and the first two rungs are still missing. You're not going to get up it. They didn't get close enough. The town dock at low tide, to the best, ask Will. Will, how much water is at the front of the town dock at low tide?
The launch ramp?
Yeah.
Couple feet.
Yeah, no, I was merely trying to quantify the amount of work, the piggyback that didn't get done, to your point, Alfred.
But it's a very small amount, but it's a very huge area because it's the whole edge of where you get to the water. I mean, the town float, at the end of the town float on a minus tide is still going to be dry. Is that not correct, Will?
Yeah, at those huge tides that we have, what was that, -2? It was pretty much level, I think.
So where there's supposed to be 6 feet of water, we have mud at low tide on a minus tide. I'm not complaining. We got a lot of stuff out there. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, if the time was in there, and I don't know how we're going to clean all this stuff up, if we're going to run out of time again if we don't get started early enough. That's all.
I'm going to make a suggestion for discussion or your approval, consideration. Chris, Will, Alfred, and I have the conference with the TA. Lay this out to her. See if she's willing to take more definite action, especially if a contract hasn't been signed yet. My impression is the contract probably says something like, "We'll provide general engineering services for the town." Okay.
Oh, that's not good enough.
No, and the town has the upper hand, you know, with the funding. Do you want to do that?
Got to get specifics into that contract. If it's not signed, that puts the pedal to the metal on them.
Will, do you know
what I'd like to do is I'd like to take the dates off of the timetable that we put together.
What was the day that the contract came in for Maria?
I don't know that.
Well, which date, Will?
That's what I'm trying to find out when, I'm trying to look up to see if I have a copy of it. I'm trying to figure out which day it is on the spot here.
Yeah. Well, I think some contract language would be appropriate. Obviously emphasize it with them, but some language would be good. If the contract hasn't been awarded, then we can include it. If the contract has been awarded, there is such a thing as an amendment to a contract. And, you know, we could do an amendment that addresses specific schedule concerns. Best efforts, I don't think we'll go quite so far as time is of the essence because of the legal ramifications, but best efforts and a published set of dates to work toward. And that's what they, in order to fulfill their contract, they have to meet those dates. But it needs to be in writing in some document and then emphasized on our weekly calls with GEI. But I think we do need to have a conversation about the contract documents with the town administrator, I believe.
And when we meet with her, you know, I'm going to offer that the immediate priority is to jump on them to do that amendment right now.
Jump on GEI or jump on the town?
No, jump on GEI to file for that amendment. I mean, how embarrassing is it going to be if we complete all of Area 1, but not amendment? I mean, that's unacceptable.
Yeah, no, this has to be done. Do you think, I mean, definitely talk to Maria and go over the contract. Do you think it would help at all if you guys went up to GEI, I think they're in Franklin, and talked to them personally, because personal contact and meetings always work out better?
Well,
I'm not opposed to that, but I think we need something more than our charm.
Or do both. You'd be surprised, but you.
No, we need it published. So I think we can do both. We certainly need to do. I think have a discussion with the town administrator so that we're all in agreement as to what documents are out there and what do they say or what should they say. Yeah. And then going personal would be fine.
Janet, before going over the engineer's head to the higher ups in GEI, I would want to lay it out to him and try and pin him down and get a commitment to those dates.
Okay.
Give him the opportunity to respond to that.
Yeah. Okay.
But the leverage is with the town, with the TA, you know.
Okay.
So if people are in agreement, you know, we can set that up tomorrow morning, you know, appeal to her for the four of us to lay all this out.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea to do it really soon.
And maybe, you know, I hate to suggest something complicated, but, you know, it might be worth thinking about whether we could propose some incentive language for completion of certain milestones and some penalty language around failure to meet certain objectives that are within their control.
You'd have to see if the new contract was signed or not. Everything else is an MOA. And they're not going to agree to that. It has to be negotiated.
Right, but if the contract, whether the contract's been signed or not signed, we've got performance issues that we want to address, whether that's through amendment or through change to what's being proposed.
Yeah, I think that's part of the discussion we should have with the TAs, whether we want to consider bonus penalty.
Yeah.
So we'll do that. Is that what you want to do?
Yeah, do we need a motion for that? What do you need, Will, from us to, or Janet or whoever? I mean, should we make this as a motion to go through you, Will? Should we go through ourselves? I mean, can Janet set up a meeting? I don't want to suck her into this, but she may have more.
I think you guys are very capable of just calling her in the morning and saying, we really need to set up a meeting regarding this contract, and has it been signed, or is it about to be signed, or let's look at it, start with that, and just express, performance, timelines, and how, what else to add to the contract, or what she should do. Yeah.
I'm going to make a motion that we meet with the town administrator, the Dredge committee, with the town administrator, the harbor master, to see where the contract is and to see whether or not we can get this to move along more smoothly.
I second that motion.
Can I make a slight amendment? I would say, the preamble of this is it's the sense of the committee that there are performance issues with the contractor that need addressing. And well, therefore,
I had a much better one, but it was very negative. So I'm trying the high road for this.
Oh, but I think we need to have a public statement that we've got concerns about their performance. I mean, I think that's helpful.
Alfred, I would just recommend you include in the motion deadlines.
Yes. How's that enough for you, Kurt?
Yeah.
I will. And in my statement, it also said to make sure we meet deadlines.
That's fine.
So can someone read it from the top?
It's your motion, Alfred.
Alfred, you want to do it again? I'll write it.
I'll try to see if, yeah, I'm trying to be positive in this. I make a motion that the Marina Advisory Committee asks the town administrator.
Dredging Task Force, Alfred?
Excuse me?
Dredge
Task Force, yes. Request a meeting with the town administrator, the harbor master, in regards to GEI, to see if we can move dredging forward with permits and stuff on time or on schedule. It's showing there's a lax. I don't want this to become negative to start with.
Maybe schedule outlined by the town.
The task, by the, yeah.
All of us together, if they could. Yeah.
We have a schedule the task force did. Let's just throw that in there. We can always amend it.
Yeah, Chris made it, so throw it right up. It's already there.
Okay.
Why don't I read if I can read my handwriting. The Dredging Task Force requests a meeting with the town administrator and harbor master to discuss GEI performance and deadline issues.
Perfect.
That's second.
This is Skip. I second that.
Okay.
So, Alfred, that's your motion. And,
yep.
And Skip, that's your second.
You got it.
All right. Let's go to the vote. Alfred.
Aye.
Kurt.
Aye.
Kevin.
Aye.
Skip.
Aye.
Joe.
Aye.
Chris. 6-0. Okay, one other thing. Who's going to call Maria in the morning to get this set up?
I'd be willing to call her.
You want to do that? Okay.
I'll email her too at the same time. I know she's busy with the budget and the town meeting coming up. So
yeah.
And if I don't hear back by the end the day, I'll talk with Rebecca, if that's what you want.
I think that'd be great.
Yeah, that's good.
Unless Will's got an avenue to get right to her.
No, I can get to it. I don't know if it has to be. I can easily set it up just as well.
Well, I don't care who. I don't care who, but as long as we get there.
Yeah.
Yep, we need the meeting face to face.
Engineering updates, Chris?
What else do we have? We had a call today. You want to go through that was really kind of part of the permit update.
Yeah, I held off on that piece. When we had the call today with the engineer, we briefed him on what I briefed you on at the beginning of the meeting regarding the congressional delegation, National Marine Fisheries, thinking it's a active shellfish bed and so forth. And we wanted him to hear all that because one of the things Congressman Keating's staff person said to me was, alert your engineer as soon as possible because you want him ready when we get that meeting with National Marine Fisheries. And you want him prepared to produce documents, data, whatever, to support our position. Just prior to that, we had received an email from him where he was relating to us that the Army Corps was looking to set up an interagency meeting to discuss the permitting of Area 2. They were looking at having the meeting on April 22nd with them, EPA, DEP, National Marine Fisheries. I think there was one other agency. And then they presented an agenda. And the agenda was loaded with the issue of mitigation. Were we going to propose alternatives? Were we going to minimize before mitigation is considered a request? Were we going to request a smaller area of the mooring field be dredged so we'd have to pay them less? And on. It was all about mitigation. So Will and Chris and I, shared with him our concerns and the information from the congressional delegation and their strong recommendation that mitigation discussions not take place, at least until we have the conversation with National Marine Fisheries to find out, what is going on with them, where they're coming from. And then we're all in a better position to move forward and have that big meeting with those agencies with a revised agenda reflecting where National Marine Fisheries is coming from. We presented that to him as our position, recommending that would be the way to go. And he disagreed with that. He thought it could be that our concerns with National Marine Fisheries could be addressed in that conference call with that agenda loaded with nothing but basically mitigation. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to pay? Are you going to reduce your mooring field and so forth? Chris and Will, you want to have anything to add to that?
Well, what we did agree is that the meeting with Marine Fisheries needs to occur first. And if it can occur before the 22nd, we might still entertain the follow-up meeting on the 22nd, but only after we've had I'll call it the higher level Marine Fisheries meeting so that we find out what's really on their mind instead of always trying to play whack-a-mole.
Yeah. Do we know anyone connected to the Cape that works with National Marine Fisheries?
Yes.
Janet, even if we did, I don't think it would amount to a hill of beans.
But if we did, who would they be?
Oh, I have no idea.
Carly.
I think the congressional, the Keating staff person told me he knew her. He had to deal with her on issues with other towns, okay? So the way he presented it to me was, when I call, they pick up because we represent the Congress, which represents funding for their budgets.
And but Kurt, you have a name of someone that we know?
Yeah, somebody that's worked pretty closely who's fairly high up is Carly Bertrand.
So I've known her since she was a little girl. But she lives in DC, right? Or does she?
She's in DC, yeah.
I was just talking about her. I mean, just any kind of connection to say, like, have any of these people been down to Wellfleet to know how small we are?
Yeah, but I think we've got progress. I mean, as Joe relayed to us, the chief of staff is involved and is brokering a meeting with the upper level of National Marine Fisheries. I think that's a very good level to be our next step.
Yeah. So how long do we wait, Joe? How long do you think?
Coupled with that, he also is going to be dealing with the upper level of the Army Corps, who's a key player in this, because we know they do not have to accept the recommendation of National Marine Fisheries, but told us rather bluntly that they were going to this time. That was Friday afternoon, Janet.
Oh, just then, all right.
So, you know, I'm going to check in with him again tomorrow, but and share with him the meeting that the engineer wants to set up on the 22nd to see if we can do it with fisheries before. But I was disappointed today in the engineer's position in wanting still to go ahead with that, with a discussion of mitigation, with the rather shocking information that we shared with him, that marine fisheries thinks it's an active shellfish bed area.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. If they came down and saw it or talked to us, I mean, you can see that it's not.
Yeah, but our engineer should have been portraying that in any type of documents and everything, and I'm not so sure they are. Do you think they're doing that, Joe?
I'm not happy these days with their performance. No. I come back to, you know, his statement to me a while back. Well, you know, we have many clients with the Army Corps. We want to maintain a good relationship with them. Well, my question is, how strongly are you advocating for Wellfleet?
Yeah, and it's not like we're trying to do anything bad, you know?
No, they just, I mean, there are deadlines. We all work with deadlines, and I think they need to hear from the town that they've got to get more serious about our deadlines and prove it right away by jumping all over the filing of the amendment area.
You know, Joe, as you've just outlined that, what occurs to me that could be very problematic is, you know, in the overall scheme of things, I can imagine these guys, you know, negotiating on behalf of, let's just say 4 or 5 other dredge projects where they've got real significant issues with those guys. And, you know, they're you know, tens of millions of dollars worth of, you know, challenge. And the feeling that I'm getting is they're not willing to go to bat for something that they perceive as potentially small, because they've got what they consider to be big fish to fry politically on other projects. And so it feels like they just don't want to go to bat for us for that. You know, it may be that they don't want to go to bat for us for that reason. They don't want to burn any political capital for Wellfleet when they feel like they need to burn a lot of political capital on another project.
Well, where mitigation comes in, they're making money for National Marine Fisheries. So
Right.
it's you
Exactly.
wash my hand, I wash your hand type of a deal.
Yep.
I agree with Joe 100%.
Yeah, and what's the bottom line? The bottom line is if they have to agree that it has been a mooring field for 100 years and should continue. They don't get a dime.
That's the bottom line.
Yep.
And are we referring to Dan Robbins as the engineer that you're talking about?
Yes. So
And he's
I want to present all this to Maria.
Well, I agree. I mean, yes. I'm just trying to think of all the venues. You know, I go back to that meeting, probably, was it 2 years ago already, where GEI came down and we had that meeting in the basement of Town Hall?
2 years ago,
You're
February.
correct.
Yeah.
That was in January. Yep, you're correct.
And I felt we got a lot accomplished because we were meeting in person and everyone meeting together. So that's kind of my thought in meeting with them and having him come down. Like, how could, you know, I don't know. I thought this was going smoothly.
At that time, Janet,
Yeah.
It was ripe for a kumbaya meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
It was the very start, you know, we were all in the circle.
Yeah.
And agreeing that everybody and everything was wonderful. Now we're looking at deadlines. We're under the gun. And that's when performance, I think, comes to the surface.
Yeah. And I do know that there are almost every coastal town is having dredging done. So anything bigger than us is probably going to get the
right now we have the biggest project in the state for dredging.
That's right. Yeah. All right. So you know what, I'm going to throw this one thing out there. Ask Harry Turkanian to come to that meeting too. I don't want the meeting to get too big, but Harry certainly knows the history, knows the players, and has a boat.
Shannon, you and I have talked about that, and I agree. Harry and I handled it with the turtle people and all that process. My recommendation, I think Harry's a wonderful resource. My recommendation is plug him in at the time when we have more information and we're really down to brass tacks and making decisions, especially if we have to go into the process of mitigation, if we hit a brick wall. I think Harry is a valuable asset to utilize at that point.
Okay, good.
Okay, move on. A couple of updates on funding grants. The most significant one being the one that we submitted on March 16th. We got a question late last week back from EOHED, and this morning Will and I and Joe drafted a response. We got some information from Nancy pertinent to the questions. And then Joe sent them the document, and I guess also he sent it out to the group too, I think. So that's the history of that document, as to it's in response to a question that came from HED. The other grant is the Seaport Economic Council, and again, it's a new category this year having to do with reimbursement for dredging design work. For us, we could consider applying for the Area 2 dredging design work, which won't be done for a while. So the question is, do we want to hurry up and put a May 1st submittal in for that? The grant has to be approved before funds can be expended, or we could do the November 1st submittal. Grants get approved in February. Again, we're talking Area 2 finalization of design, so that timeline would work as well.
Do you know if Mike Travato got anywhere with the Seaport Economic Council and funding?
With respect to any topic?
Getting grants going, or, you know, submitting any grants?
I don't, but
You would. You guys would be the ones to know.
oh, well, relative to dredging, no, that I can answer. I didn't know if that was a generic question about any grants on behalf of the town.
No, relative to dredging.
Oh, yeah, no, there's nothing relative to dredging. We didn't apply to SEC last year. That may be why we didn't get anything. This category that we're eligible for is new this year. It didn't exist last year.
Do you know why he didn't apply, or what there was? It something that the grant didn't need, or what happened?
The only category last year would have been infrastructure, and dredging doesn't qualify for infrastructure. You know, that's covered under the other Massachusetts dredging program, you know, the one we've just applied for. Okay. The dredging design cost is now an SEC opportunity, but this is the first year that they've added that. I'll call it a fifth category, although it's actually a different application, but it's new this year.
Chris, before we move on, I just want to add a footnote to the lobbyist subject. The lobbyist is ready to go. All he needs is a signed contract. We know he has input to the upper echelon of Army Corps in Washington, D.C. However, if the select board approves it tomorrow night, which I anticipate they will, the town needs a licensed procurement officer to process that. And the only licensed procurement officer we have is Suzanne Thomas. Back in February, when the select board gave preliminary approval to our former lobbyist, his proposal, I asked Suzanne if she'd be available, and she said she'd be happy to help out, but needed an order from Town Hall to do that. I passed that on to our TA, and at that time, she told me she didn't want to go that route, that she would have to look elsewhere. So I think at the meeting we have with her, we need to approach that to get that processed as soon as possible so he can get to work.
So what other route did she want? Hold on. What other route did she want to take?
Is our new assistant town administrator, Rebecca, a procurement officer?
I don't know. I mean, let's not get me talking about the town.
We also know that I think Mark Vincent and
I think Mark is.
I think his assistant Jean maybe as well too. So we do have a couple avenues, but we can address that tomorrow with her. And
well, you might not get a meeting with her tomorrow. I don't know if whatever might be another day.
Well, if I get a chance to talk with her to set up the meeting, I'm going to mention it, that it's a priority right now, so she has notice of it and can work on it.
And that it has to be done by whatever, Wednesday or Thursday, I mean, give her a date.
And tomorrow night, when the lobbyist issue comes before the board, why don't you pursue that to facilitate getting that done?
Good idea. Except, so I don't want this lobbyist request for the agenda to be put off. I would be surprised, but I could think of a lot of other things we could let go before we let go of that on the agenda. Like I'll re-look at the agenda, but okay. So really what I should get with Marie is that Suzanne can please give Suzanne the order, the request to do an RFP for the lobbyist.
Well, whoever you and whoever the board and Maria agree upon, we don't care as long as they're capable of doing the job and getting it out.
I mean, procurement. All right.
Yeah, it must be able to be a way that you can anoint somebody for a specific day or time or week, and then they're off of that.
Yeah. Okay.
I think they have to take a class. It's not quite that simple.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but Susan had the class, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, we should have, in any town, you should have a number of procurement officers. They just come and go. All right.
Action item lists, Chris?
Again, it was issued, it was sent out, had been updated. I don't think there's anything on there that we haven't already discussed. As always, I'll entertain additions to the list. If you want to add it to the action item list, I'd be glad to do so. And if you think of something after the meeting, before I issue these for the next meeting, you know, you can just email me. And if it's something we want to add to the list and track, that's no problem.
April 26th, our next date.
How's that look for everybody?
I will be having a hip replacement, so I will not be there.
Well, it's a Zoom meeting. You can be there.
I was thinking that, but I think I still might be under anesthesia, so I'm not going to commit.
Okay.
We always appreciate your contribution, even when you're under.
Well, maybe I'll be bored and want to come on, so we'll see. But if I'm not there, that's why.
Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn the April 12th meeting.
This is Skip. I second that.
All right, you guys are a real tag team. Vote. Alfred.
Aye.
Kurt.
Aye.
Kevin.
Aye.
Skip.
Aye.
Joe.
Aye.
Chris. Aye. 6-0.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Yes,
Janet, good luck with your hip.
Thank you. I know. I was supposed to have it 10 days ago, and I couldn't have it for other reasons, which I'll tell when I'm not on camera.
Well, good luck. God bless.
I wish you the best.
Thank you.
Good luck, Janet.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.